much, everybody. Would you like to come behind us? Come on. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Where's Erica? She's right. Can I just show you a name?
Always approves.
You can't be on this side of the press.
Okay, so we'll do it.
You get behind her.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Stand in front over here. Goes over there.
Okay.
Jeanette, stand in front.
Judge Janine, Chief Protocol.
Thank you. Don't tell Monica.
She's a strong leader. She just made television.
She's tough, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to be here for our friend Sergio Gore. Today we're thrilled to be in a swear-in for the next ambassador to India and special envoy to South and Central Asia, which is a big deal, and Sergio will handle it better than anybody could handle it. So I just want to congratulate Sergio. Come here a minute, Sergio. This afternoon by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. Thank you, J.D. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. Secretary Scott Bessent, who's doing a great job. Attorney General Pam Bondi. And U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro. D.C. is a very safe place, Janine, right? Very safe place, so we're going to keep it that way.
Yes.
Along with Senators Lindsey Graham, Jim Risch, Tommy Tuberville, and Katie Britt. And I will give you an exemption because, you know, they're supposed to be right now in the Senate. And if you guys want to sneak out, nobody will see you leaving. Do you want to do that, Lindsey, or do you want to stay here? Okay, you sneak out anytime you want. Thank you. We don't want to screw up any votes, do we?
Amen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. But we're also very honored to be joined by Mrs. a very special woman who I unfortunately have seen a lot of lately on television for the wrong reasons. A woman who is great, who Charlie said is the greatest of anybody he knew, best friends and best everything, Erica Kirk. So thank you very much. And as Erica knows, another special woman, Laura Ingram. Where's Laura? She's here someplace. Thank you, Laura. And many other true American patriots, great people. 1 year ago, Sergio played a key role in helping us secure the most consequential presidential election victory in the history of our country. And from the day we won, he immediately began working to staff our new administration with the most talented team of any president. And we have had a great team. A couple of mistakes there, Sergio, but we won't mention that. We got rid of them pretty quick. We found a couple we weren't thrilled with. We got them out of here. But as my director of office and presidential personnel from the early days of transition, Sergio's leadership was essential to fulfilling the historic mandate entrusted to us by the American people. And that's what we've done with the help here at the White House. We set new benchmarks for presidential staffing. Nobody's done it, I think, hopefully better, but certainly quicker. But I don't think anybody's done it better. We have great people. We're surrounded by the people that I really do love and like and respect. But we hired 4,000 appointees across every federal department in record time, including over 1,000 appointments on day one. So before we even got started, we had over 1,000 people working for us. Under Sergio's leadership, federal agencies and departments reached staffing levels of 95%, and it's faster than any administration in modern day history. And prior to his work on behalf of my 2024 campaign, Sergio had tremendous success as an entrepreneur in the publishing world. He even published my book, which went to #1. I was very happy because if it didn't, he wouldn't be here right now. But now I'm trusting Sergio to help strengthen one of our country's most important international relationships, and that's the strategic partnership with the Republic of India. It's a big deal. India is home to one of the world's oldest civilization, the largest country in the world, actually. And it's got over 1.5 billion people. And we have a fantastic relationship with the Prime Minister, Modi. And Sergio has only enhanced that because he's become already friendly with the Prime Minister, knowing that Sergio is going to be the ambassador they would call constantly to say, let's get to know this man, and they like what they see. So I know you're going to have a great success over there. It's a very important relationship. But it's also the fastest growing middle class, and it's an important economic and strategic security partner in the Indo-Pacific region. It's an amazing country, actually. 1.5 billion people. China has 1.4 billion. Those are two big countries. As ambassador, Sergio will work to fortify our country's bond, promote investments in key U.S. industries and technologies, increase American energy exports, and expand our security cooperation. And, you know, we're making a deal with India, a much different deal than we had in the past. So right now they don't love me, but they'll love us again. We're getting a fair deal, just a fair trade deal. We had pretty unfair trade deals. They're very good negotiators, Sergio, so you have to take a look at that, if you would, please. But we're getting close, Scott. I think we're pretty close to doing a deal that's good for everybody, right? In the old days, do you think Biden would ask that question? I don't think so. They'd say, how are we doing with India? He didn't know about India. He didn't know a damn thing. But that's okay. We had him. Likewise, in Sergio's role as special envoy to South and Central Asia, he'll be a key emissary to a very important group of nations at the crossroads between East and West. And last week, I was honored to host the leaders of 5 Central Asian countries here in the White House. And Sergio will be helping with all of that. We had an amazing meeting the other night at the White House. And I'm confident that Sergio will do an outstanding job and make our country and all of his friends very proud. But I'm very proud of Sergio. I've known him for a long time, and he's a great guy. And most people love him. Some people don't like him so much. I'll be honest with you, Sergio. That's it. Some people, when they don't like Sergio, they don't like him. But when they like him more than anybody. But most of them really are the like category. And I just want to say that I think he's going to be an outstanding representative for the United States of America. And it's a big deal. Being the ambassador to India is a big deal. So, Sergio, congratulations. I know you're going to do a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Okay, swear him in here.
Left hand up, right hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. I appreciate the assistance. We have such a crowd here, you'd think we're swearing in a vice president, sir. Okay. Please repeat after me. I, Sergio Gore,
I, Sergio Gore,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office on which I am about to enter.
of the office of which I'm about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Mr. President, this is an honor of a lifetime. I want to thank first you, what you have done for this country before you came back in, the trouble that this country was facing. I mean, frankly, we were screwed. What you have achieved in 10 months has been historic, has surpassed any other presidency, and I fully believe what you will achieve in the next 3 years will never be beaten. So it has been an honor to serve you. I've been at your side for many years. I will continue to be there. And it's just an incredible honor. And I look forward to enhancing the relationship between our two nations. But again, thank you for entrusting me with this position, and I look forward to doing a great job for you.
Thank you very much, Serge.
Well, thank you, sir. First of all, congratulations, Sergio. You're going to be a great ambassador, a great representative to the country of India, which the president and I both love. As a lot of you know, Sergio was a critical piece of what made the first 10 months such a great success. Obviously, the president's leadership is the most important thing, but you can't do a whole lot unless you've got good people around you. And Sergio did as much as anybody to ensure that the White House was staffed with the very best people, people who were loyal to the president, loyal to the country, and loyal to the agenda that we're trying to implement. So thank you all for being here. I think it's a great testament to you, Sergio, that you got multiple cabinet secretaries, Erica Kirk, the President of the United States. This crowd would not turn out for just anybody, but it turned out for Sergio Gore. You're going to do a hell of a job, man. Congratulations.
Just to echo what Sergio said, Mr. President, you've done a lot for this country, more than any other president has in such a short period of time. And part of that is putting together a phenomenal team. And I know Sergio was instrumental in helping you achieve that. And so we think you'll do a great job. This is a very impressive collection of people. There are almost 1.5 billion people in the Oval Office right now. But Sergio's going to do a phenomenal job. Those of us who've known him, so many of his friends that are here and family as well, that know how hard he works, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's what it takes to work in this administration, because of how much you're pushing our country forward around the world and here at home. And we know Sergio will do a great job. So congratulations, Sergio. You're going to do a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Janine, please.
Well, I'm very proud to be here with Sergio. My friend has been my friend for many years. He is someone who is loyal, he is trustworthy, and he works as hard as anyone I know. And Mr. President, there is in this room a group of people who love you, who believe in you, and who are so proud to be in this Oval Office and to be part of this amazing day, because you have changed the course of America. You, and thank you, Sergio, for what you've done. God bless you both.
Thank you very much. Well, he was also very good friends with a guy named Charlie. We just knew him as Charlie, and his wife, who he loves so much, is here with us. And maybe you know how close they were together. Maybe, Erica, you could say a couple of words, please.
Honored to, sir. Charlie loved you. It's hard not to get emotional because I know that he would have been the first phone call when he found out that you were going to be taking this position. And the way that I was able to witness the two of you work together for years and to champion and support the president was absolutely humbling to witness. And I am so proud of you. And Charlie is going to be with you every single day in spirit. And I will be praying for you every day, because I know that this is just the beginning of an incredible opportunity for you. And sir, thank you for allowing Sergio to have this beautiful moment.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John. And that man's watching over us right now, right? Okay. Any questions?
You mentioned senators that are here, Mr. President. Do you personally approve of the deal that's happening right now on Capitol Hill to end the government
Well, it depends what deal we're talking about. But if it's a deal I heard about, that's certainly, you know, they want to change the deal a little bit. But I would say so. I think based on everything I'm hearing, they haven't changed anything. And we have support from enough Democrats. And we're going to be opening up our country. It's too bad it was closed, but we'll be opening up our country very quickly.
Mr. President, that deal does reverse the mass firings your administration put through during the shutdown. Did you sign off on that, and will you abide by that if this passes?
Well, I will be. I'll abide by the deal. The deal is very good. We're not going to be giving $1.5 trillion to people that came in from jails and from, you know, the gangs and drug dealers and all of these others that they wanted to be given health care, which would have hurt our health care system. I hope that we're going to be able to have a health care where Lindsay and I were discussing it, Jim and I were discussing it, and Katie, we discussed it. We want a health care system where we pay the money to the people instead of the insurance companies. And I tell you, we're going to be working on that very hard over the next short period of time, where the people get the money. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars where the people get the money. Yes, please.
The Syria president, sir, did you update us on your meeting? Did you come to any agreements?
Say it?
With the leader of Syria you
Yeah.
had earlier, did you come to any agreements today?
Well, I've had an agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening. And, as you know, Syria is a very big part of the Middle East, very important part. If you look back at Syria for years, they had the doctors, the lawyers, they had so many of the great intellects. It's an amazing place with great people, and we want to see Syria be successful along with the rest of the Middle East. So I have confidence that he'll be able to do the job, absolutely.
How close are you to a deal on a trade deal with India? Are you willing to consider lowering the current tariff rate?
Well, right now the tariffs are very high on India because of the Russian oil, and they've stopped doing the Russian oil. It's been reduced very substantially. Yeah, we're going to be bringing the tariffs down.
What kind of level are we talking about here?
I mean, at some point we're going to be bringing them down. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble, as they were for many years. That's why we owe $38 trillion. And one of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. So we're doing a lot of good work. And the numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country. And nobody thinks it's going to be reversed. I think we had a very good court case. As you know, it's before the Supreme Court right now. But if that were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very easily. But this is trillions of dollars we're talking about in terms of the tariff income and all the investment income that's come into our country. We have more than, I would say right now, more than $18 trillion. The biggest number ever is a tiny fraction of that for any country. China, the United States, the biggest number ever. If you look at the past administration, Biden, he did less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We're over 18 trillion. By the time my first year ends, we're going to have over $20 trillion of investment coming into the United States. It's unheard of. We have AI factories. We're leading China by a lot. We have cars and car plants coming in by more than we've ever had built before. All of that would go away if we lose the tariff case. So all of it would go away. So they're not giving the right numbers. It would be an economic disaster. It would be a national security disaster if we lost the case in the Supreme Court. Daniel? Yes.
This is an idea you've been talking about for months. This is going to directly, positively impact millions of Americans. Why was this important for you to do, and when do Americans expect that?
So I've been talking about it for a long time, the dividend to people that, have suffered under the Biden administration. So Biden had the highest inflation in history, and we now are at a very low point. We're going to be hitting 1.5% pretty soon. So we're at a low point, and he was a high point. We did that. Food prices are way down. It's all coming down. And the biggest decrease, of course, is energy. And, as goes energy, goes everything else. Because when energy comes down, the oil, the electric, I think you're going to see $2 gasoline or something very close to that. In fact, we're already in the twos. But I think you're going to be seeing very soon $2 gasoline. That's like the equivalent of a massive tax cut. But in addition to that, the great big beautiful bill gives you a very, very big tax cut. And then you have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime for the middle income and for even, frankly, anybody. But you have no tax, and the no tax on tips has turned out to be a tremendous thing. But when you think no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our seniors, it's the great big beautiful bill, which has been mischaracterized, but now people they don't want to talk about it because it's so good, the enemy, because it's so good for everybody. It's the greatest piece of legislation ever passed in the history of our country in terms of size. And hence it's called, they call it the big beautiful bill, or the one big beautiful, I call it the great big beautiful bill. It's an amazing bill for the middle class. It's an amazing bill for jobs. We've never passed anything like it. And in my first administration, so we had the greatest economy. Everything was good, but we're really outdoing it this time because we have investments coming in largely because of tariffs. And I think because of November 5th, the election result. But we have investments coming in like we've never had before.
The deal Mr. President, on Syria.
Please, behind you. Caitlin, behind you. Thank you, Caitlin.
On Syria, can we expect an announcement on a pact between Syria and Israel, or an announcement on them joining the anti-ISIS?
Yeah, you can expect some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts, but he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance. He gets along very well with Turkey, with President Erdogan, who's a great leader. Erdogan's a great leader and very much in favor of what's happening in Syria. We have to make Syria work. Syria is a big part of the Middle East, and I will tell you, I think it is working and really well. We're working also with Israel on, getting along with Syria, getting along with everybody, and that's working amazingly. As you know, Hamas has given us back numerous bodies. It sounds pretty gruesome, but it's something the parents want more than if their son had been living. Hard to believe. I've seen all of the parents, so many of the parents, and getting back the body of their son, their dead son, is as vital to them, as important to them, as if the boy was was alive. And as you know, over the last 4 or 5 days, we've gotten a lot of the additional bodies that they said they were going to. They've worked very hard to do that. So we have peace in the Middle East. It's a great thing, and nobody's ever seen anything quite like it.
After your meeting with the Syrian president today,
Switzerland,
Mr.
you posted
President.
last week about your talks with Switzerland. We're reporting that you're near a deal that would lower their rates.
With Switzerland?
Yeah.
We're working on a deal to get their tariffs a little bit lower because.
50% is what we're doing.
No, I haven't said any number, but we're going to be working on something to help Switzerland along. We hit Switzerland very hard. We want Switzerland to remain successful, and we're a part of Switzerland in the sense that they've been a very good ally. Yeah, we're working on them and some others, and we're working on others to increase them a little bit too.
How close is it to Switzerland?
Switzerland? What, do you have something to do with Switzerland? He wants to buy a nice one. He wants to buy a nice Rolex, right? We'll give Rolex some publicity because Rolex they've been very nice, Now, look, it's a beautiful country. It's a small country, but economically very big. So we're working on something. Caitlin?
After meeting with the Syrian president earlier today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. But I have to view the presidency as a worldwide situation, not locally. I mean, we could have a world that's on fire where wars come to our shores very easily if you had a bad president. We had a horrible president, and we ended up with Russia, Ukraine, and we ended up with other disasters, too. Don't forget, I put out 8 wars, 9 to come. I think I'll get the other one taken care of, but I put out 8 wars. And look at the damage that Russia, Ukraine has done to us as a country. I mean, we spent $350 billion. We're not spending any money anymore. Now they pay us through NATO. I got NATO to go from 2% to 5%. Well, that's very important. When you're president, you really sort of have to watch over the world because you're going to be dragged into it otherwise. You're going to be dragged into a world war. I think if I weren't president, first of all, that war would have never happened if I was president. And if I weren't president, that war could have led to World War III. It won't. It's not going to anymore. But when I first got in, I said, wow, this situation could lead to World War III. And I got NATO together. I got everybody together. But with all of that, I passed a great, big, beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. So when somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side, I don't know what, I guess she's, got some kind of an act going, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know. I don't devote a lot of my time. Let me give you another example. China. China was going to hit us with rare earth. Now, everybody says, what does that mean? Magnets. If China refused to give magnets, because they have a monopoly on magnets, because they were allowed to happen over a 32-year period, there wouldn't be a car made in the entire world. There wouldn't be a radio. There wouldn't be a television. There wouldn't be internet. There wouldn't be anything, because magnets are such a part. Now, nobody knows what magnets are, and not overly sophisticated, but to build a magnet system would take 2 years. So if I weren't able to say to China, look, if you're going to do that to us, we're going to charge you 158% tariff. It was 100% on top of 58%. And China called up immediately and said, we will make peace. And we made peace. We made a great deal. We made an unbelievable deal. China's paying tariffs to the United States, not the United States paying tariffs to China, which has always been the way it was. Nobody can believe these deals. But so when somebody makes a statement about he's devoting time to the world, well, the world is the United States, because if the world's in trouble or if the world is ripping us off, you know, the world was ripping us off before I came here. Europe was getting massive tariffs. They were sending us 9-10 million cars a year. We were sending them none. They were not taking our agriculture. We were taking massive amounts of their. It was so unfair. Now we have a deal where $950 billion is coming into the United States because of me and because of tariffs. So if I don't do all these things, our country is doing very poorly. So, you know, it's easy to say, oh, don't worry about the world. But the world is turning out to be our biggest customer. The world was on fire. And we could have been in that fire very easily if you didn't have a president that knew what he was doing.
What's the guarantee to Americans that travel is going to go back to normal once the government...
The travel is? Oh, yeah. It'll go better than normal. You know why?
When the government reopens.
Yeah, sure. It'll be much better than normal because we're buying the most sophisticated avionics and, you know, technology for our control towers. And we didn't have that. We had a guy named Buttigieg. Edge, they say is the best way. Just say two edges, like off the edge of a cliff, which is where they were taking us, by the way. Edge was the Secretary of Transportation, and he spent billions of dollars trying to patch together our air traffic control system, which was a conglomeration of all different systems in all different cities. They had hundreds of companies working on it. And they were spending billions of dollars. And when they turned it on, it didn't work. It didn't even work a little bit. That's why you had a helicopter crashing into an airplane, that if we had a great system, bells and whistles would have started going off. So we are now in the process. We're in the final bids of getting the finest system anywhere in the world. I've analyzed it. Sean Duffy has been working really hard on it, doing a fantastic job, by the way. And over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be handing out the finest air traffic control system anywhere in the world. All the towers will be equipped. They were going copper wire into glass wire into other types of wire. And if you knew anything, you know copper wire doesn't work with glass. You know glass doesn't work with other substances. And they spent billions of dollars, and when they turned it on, nothing happened. Okay? We're getting the most sophisticated, all brand new. Every control tower will have the same exact system. It'll be the most sophisticated system.
Bill to reopen the government. It requires all 100 senators to reach a time agreement. Any one senator can object and drag it out. And they're trying to negotiate behind the scenes to resolve some concerns. There is some expectation that this bill could pass potentially late tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. Then the House would come back into session within 36 hours. Remember, the House has been out of session since September 19th because of the Speaker's decision to keep the chamber out, trying to pressure Democrats in the Senate to vote for the bill to reopen the government. Now, this deal that was cut was a Senate deal that not only would reopen the government until January 30th, it includes, as part of that Affordable Care Act subsidy discussion, a separate vote that would occur no later than the second week of December on an ACA bill. It is unclear what that bill is. Democrats would draft that bill then it would come to the floor. But because it's a separate vote and not tied to government funding, that means there is no assurance at all that this will become law, much less pass the Senate or pass the Republican-led House. And that is what's causing so much frustration in the angst. Senator Mark Kelly told me moments ago that he was disappointed with this deal that was cut, but he also contended this will be another issue come December, another chance for the two sides to make their choices known about health care.
Are you frustrated with your colleagues for cutting this deal?
Well, this is a challenging, situation for everybody, and but the Republicans are going to have another opportunity here in December to show the American people where they are on this. They're going to be presented with an option to do something on these premiums, and they'll have to provide the votes if the American people's going to get some relief.
Now, I talked to several of those Democratic senators who did cut this deal, and I asked them about the concerns among some on the left flank that this amounted to a capitulation of sorts over health care. And they said, look, there was really no opportunity, no chance of getting a better deal at this point. There was some hope, they believe, that Trump could get behind an extension of those subsidies that are expiring at year's end because of the concern that people's health care premiums are set to increase and are already increasing because of the expectation that they would expire. They thought that perhaps Trump could get behind this, particularly after last Tuesday's election losses. But over the last several days, Trump has dug in, criticizing the Affordable Care Act, contending that he would not agree with the extensions that the Democrats are calling for, injecting his own ideas into the mix. And there was an ultimate calculation by these members that this is the best deal they could get on this issue. Nothing really would change in their view if they held out another week or 2 weeks. Meantime, Americans were feeling the consequences increasingly day after day, whether it's federal food aid, furloughs, not getting paychecks, travel problems, and the like, and that this was the deal that had to be cut in order to move ahead here. But as you can see, as you noted, Casey, this party deeply divided over this deal, even though it's poised to pass Congress in just a matter of days.
Indeed. All right, Manu Raju, thanks very much. I'm sure we'll be following your reporting throughout the hour. And joining us now in the arena, Democratic Congressman from Massachusetts, Seth Moulton. He's also running for Senate in Massachusetts in 2026. He is primarying a fellow Democrat. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. Do you think that Chuck Schumer is in control of the Senate Democratic caucus?
No, he's not. I mean, he's got 8 Democrats going rogue here. He himself voted against them. And that's not leadership. That's not leadership at a time when we desperately need leadership to stand up to Donald Trump. And it's certainly not leadership when Trump and the Republicans are close to caving here. He has them over a barrel. I mean, Trump just a few days ago, said that the election losses last Tuesday were in large part because of the government shutdown. That's pretty obvious to a lot of Americans. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, as conservatives as you can come as a Republican, saying that her own family can't afford health care unless Republicans agree to what Democrats want. So I don't know why you would give in now.
Do you think that Chuck Schumer should step aside now and let someone else lead Democrats in the Senate?
I think it would be better. I think it'd be better than the status quo. And I hear this from Democrats all across Massachusetts. Everywhere I go, people say there's a leadership vacuum right now in the Democratic Party. We need new leadership. We've got to stop protecting this establishment status quo that's gotten us a second term of Donald Trump. And he's hurting a lot of people, a lot of Americans all across this country. A lot of people right here in Massachusetts are being hurt by this administration. I mean, the guy literally went to the Supreme Court this past weekend and pleaded with them to allow him to let Americans starve. What kind of president is this? And now we're going to give in to him? It doesn't make sense.
Is Senator Markey part of the problem?
Well, he is, as long as he supports Senator Schumer. I mean, I don't think people look at Senator Markey and Senator Schumer and say, those are the leaders that are going to take us forward as Democrats. You know who they look at? They look at people like Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill. 2 great veterans I helped get to the House in 2018. I supported their campaigns with Serve America that helped flip seats all across the country when we needed to win back seats for the midterms and keep Trump accountable in his first term. And now they're governors. Now they're winning races. Now they're showing real leadership. That's the next generation of leadership that we need to pass the torch to in the Democratic Party.
Congressman, the president just weighed in on what happened in the Senate over the weekend and what's next for the shutdown. Let's watch what he said. We'll talk about it. Take a look.
It depends what deal we're talking about, but if it's a deal I heard about, that's certainly, they want to change the deal a little bit, but I would say so. I think based on everything I'm hearing, they haven't changed anything, and we have support from enough Democrats, and we're going to be opening up our country. It's too bad it was closed, but we'll be opening up our country very quickly.
Seems like a relatively positive tone from the president. Your reaction?
He is, of course, he's positive because Democrats just gave in. We just gave in to Donald Trump. We just gave in to a guy who's trying to let American families starve, who doesn't care if there are American kids waiting in bread lines. We should not give in to him. A few months down the road, those same American families that are starving right now because he's trying to prevent them from getting food are not going to be able to afford health care. We're the only ones standing between the American people and Donald Trump's vicious, hateful agenda. We've got to stand tall. We've got to beat Donald Trump, not give in to him.
I know Democrats were supposed to talk amongst themselves just about an hour ago in the House. Can you give us a sense of how your colleagues in the House Democratic Caucus are feeling right now?
Very frustrated with Schumer and the Republicans, and the reality is that
talk to
most
Jeffries about this at all?
I don't know, but I do know that what I heard from most of my colleagues is that we in the House want to stand strong and stand together and support Americans' right to afford health care, which should be a human right. And so we're kind of flabbergasted at what's going on in the Senate right now.
In terms of what's next in the House, do you think it's possible that this may not pass the House as it is?
Well, it's an interesting question because most Democrats are going to vote against it. I mean, the House Democratic Caucus seems pretty united against this deal. And, there may be some Republicans who are against it as well. I mean, look, we heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene that she can't afford health care. Now, you never count on her for a vote. She could change her mind at the last minute. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think the Republicans are certainly going to try to jam this through because they just basically do whatever Donald Trump wants. But there's a lot of dissension here, and there's a lot of, there frankly was more room to negotiate than Senate Democrats took advantage of, in my opinion.
Before I let you go, Congressman, you clearly, and this interview I think underscores that you're looking at the base of your party, you're in a primary. You recently committed to support and lead legislation like the Transgender Bill of Rights, and this was after you told the New York Times that Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges America's faced. Referenced your daughters and said you don't want them to be run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete, but as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Do you want to revise and extend those remarks here based on this new statement?
My voting record on transgender rights is 100%. I'm the one who carried a lot of the water in the House Armed Services Committee on making sure that transgender troops can continue serving when Trump was trying to discriminate against them. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to have a debate about this issue, because when we refuse to do that, we just totally cede the grounds to Republicans who are going to advance a singularly hateful agenda. So my point is, Democrats need to take on these tough issues. We need to have debates. The Olympics has restrictions on sports. We should be able to debate that ourselves and not refuse to take that on because we're too afraid of the backlash. Because if we don't take on these issues, then the people who get hurt at the end of the day are transgender Americans. But we know that Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to take advantage of this, and we can't let them do that.
All right, Congressman Seth Moulton, always grateful to have you on the show. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Great to see you.
It will be unaffordable for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans to be able to go see a doctor when they need one. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week.
That was House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. The Speaker of the House told House members this morning that they need to start heading back to D.C. now, given that they may, of course, run into trouble as they fly back to vote this week because the shutdown's impact on our air travel continues to worsen, as anyone who attempted to fly this weekend can tell you, following last week's FAA order to reduce domestic flights at 40 airports. As of this morning, commercial airlines have canceled more than 5,000 flights that were scheduled from yesterday through this Wednesday. Around 10% of scheduled flights were canceled yesterday, making it the fourth worst day for cancellations this year. Today, reports of staffing issues at air traffic control facilities have gone up to at least 36, causing widespread delays. Even if the shutdown is resolved this week, we should note, experts say to expect residual impacts on travel, with Thanksgiving, of course, right around the corner. But let's start right now, our show on Capitol Hill with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Speaker Johnson, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. So every Republican in the House, every single one, which doesn't happen very often, voted for the clean government funding bill on September 19th. Will they all vote for this compromise, do you think?
I believe they will. The long national nightmare is almost coming to an end now, the beginning of the end, as I said this morning in my press conference. It was long overdue, and the irony is, Jake, it really was a shutdown about nothing. I mean, what we're voting on is effectively exactly what we offered them several weeks back. We've added some appropriations bills now, which we're in favor of because it's getting us back to the regular order. We'll take care of some other details, but I don't think Chuck Schumer got anything out of this other than a political show, and sadly, I think that's what he was after the whole time.
So a source on today's House GOP conference call said that you told members that you're hoping for a Wednesday House vote to reopen the government. The shutdown, air travel chaos obviously is a, you can't predict that.
It's a challenge for us, for sure. I'd like to vote tonight after the Senate is done, but it takes everybody a while to get back. We have people come from the West Coast. We have a member flying in from Guam, so he has 20 hours just to get to the West Coast and then get here. So we've got to get everybody back. We're praying that they can make it through the chaos that all the other American people have been made to suffer through because of this needless political show that the Democrats have been engaging in.
But you'll wait until you have the votes before you have the vote.
We need to get everybody back. I mean, everybody in both parties, and I've told them to start the travel earlier today. So I expect and hope that we'll have everybody here.
So the Senate bill is setting a date for a Senate vote on extending the Obamacare subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year. You have not committed to a separate House vote on the issue. 13 of your most vulnerable members, as you know, wrote a letter to you saying that after the shutdown, quote, we should immediately turn focus to the growing crisis of healthcare affordability and the looming expiration of the Enhanced Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. While we did not create this crisis, we now have both the responsibility and the opportunity to address it. That's 13 members. Are you going to listen to them?
Yeah, I've been in contact with those members and all of our members throughout the entire ordeal that we've been going through. This is a very important point. We were always open to sitting down to negotiate and talk through how to reduce healthcare costs. It's a crisis for the American people. The cost have skyrocketed. It's the Democrats who put us into this scenario. Remember, they're the ones that created the ACA. We call it the Unaffordable Care Act, because that's exactly what's been yielded. Since 2010, since they put it into law, premiums have skyrocketed, some estimates 60% overall, and they're continuing to go up.
Well, premiums were skyrocketing before Obamacare, too.
Not at this pace, and the problem is now it's becoming completely unaffordable for more and more people. The Democrat solution is to subsidize the broken system. We would like to go in and look at the root causes of why those costs are so high, and we've been doing that. It's not just talking points. We have had laws signed into law, this Congress, that have begun to chip away at that. There's a lot more yet to do, but we've got to build consensus between the parties. It should be bipartisan. We're looking forward to that.
That's a long-term issue, though, what you're talking about. You're not going to be able to solve this issue of skyrocketing premiums, not just in Obamacare, for everything. Well, premiums are going up in Obamacare, yes. They're also going up for people not in Obamacare, for like me and you.
Well, there's short-term solutions and longer-term solutions. Right, you're right. It's very complicated.
But on the short-term issue of the people who with the subsidies, and that's going to expire at the end of the year, will you have a vote on the issue as your 13 Republicans, frontline Republicans, people that you're the speaker because of them?
Yes.
They're in districts that are vulnerable.
Sure.
Will you have a vote so they can vote?
The very people that you were citing in the letter believe we have to have real reform. So what I'm committed to, and I have all along, this has never changed, is a deliberative process that we do in the House. We have a very small margin. Majorities, whomever has the majority now in this era is going to have a small margin, and so it requires the involvement of a lot of members. See, the problem that I had with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is Leader Schumer was insisting that I go into a back room, Leader Thune and I go into a back room with he and Jeffries and do a four corners agreement to fix this. It's not possible. It was never appropriate to do that on a short-term funding measure. We needed the month of October, November, December to work through this. And ironically, because of his shenanigans, they've now taken all that time off the clock. So we have a lot more important work to do in a shorter time period.
Congressman Don Bacon, who's retiring of Nebraska, he's been working with Congressman Tom Suozzi, a moderate Democrat from New York. They're about this exact issue, about reforms on these subsidies, means testing, having the payments directly go to the insurance companies instead of to the businesses than the insurance companies. Is that something you're willing to let come up for a vote?
That's one of many ideas that are on the table. The problem is when you're subsidizing insurance companies, they just jack the rates up even higher. I mean, we've been seeing this over and over and over. So the solution is, to get at the root causes. I'll give you an example. In the Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, we had the Medicaid reforms. So as we've discussed many times, what we did was we went in to eliminate the fraud, waste, and abuse and drive down the cost. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, evaluated that and said, you know what, that's right, it will achieve that. It'll save $185 billion for taxpayers because you got ineligible enrollees off the system. We need to do that same thing across the board through healthcare. We tried that in the Big Beautiful Bill when it went over to the Senate in the House version. We included a cost sharing reduction program that would have reduced premiums 12.7% overall on average nationwide.
Yeah.
The Democrats fought in the Senate to take it out of the bill. So there are a lot of ideas that we'd like to bring back to the table because that will actually solve the problem and not just subsidize insurance companies.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it. What I'm saying is that we do a deliberative process. That's the way this always works, and we have to have time to do that, and we will in a bipartisan fashion.
If something passes the Senate, it would only pass on a bipartisan basis.
Yeah.
Would you bring it up?
Well, the bill that's going to pass
to extend the subsidies, that later vote.
I can't commit to anything that hasn't even passed through the Senate yet. I mean, I've never done that. I'm very consistent. I've been Speaker for over 2 years, and one of the reasons I've held the gavel is because I don't go out and predetermine outcomes. It's a member-driven institution, as it should be, and I'm really insistent about that. We got to get back to regular order, and that's what we're doing here.
President Trump today on Truth Social said that air traffic controllers should get back to work. He said he's going to recommend a $10,000 bonus for any controllers who took no time off. And he said, well, anyone who doesn't show up will be substantially docked. He then went on to say, quote, for those that did nothing but complain and took time off, even though everyone knew they would be paid in full shortly into the future, I am not happy with you, all caps. Now, as the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, has said to me on my show and to plenty of other people, these air traffic controllers, some of them called into work and said they couldn't come in because they had to take a job as an Uber Eats driver or a Lyft driver just to put gas in their car so they could get to work the next day.
Yeah.
Do you think the president realizes this?
I think he does. I spent some time yesterday talking to my good friend Sean Duffy, who's a former colleague, now the Secretary of Transportation, and I was with the president last night. We have a lot of sympathy for the people who have, at great personal sacrifice, gone to the towers, gone to work, and done their job. The president wants to reward that, and that I appreciate that sentiment. It would take an act of Congress, I'm sure, to make that happen, but it's the right idea.
But he says, I am not happy with you, all caps. I mean,
well, look, on an individual basis, there may be some people that abuse the program, but I mean, it wasn't just air traffic controllers, of course. I mean, we asked Border Patrol agents, TSA agents, and many other categories of federal employees, including all the employees that keep this place in operation.
Right, Capitol Hill police officers, right?
All of them, the ones that are protecting us right now. I mean, they've been working without pay, and so we have great sympathy for them. We'd like to reward that any way we can. It's a patriotic duty that they filled for their country.
When the House returns, so I guess presumably Wednesday, if your prayers come true Wednesday,
yes.
When are you going to swear in Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva of Arizona, who was elected way back in September?
Yeah, just as I promised, as soon as we get back to legislative session. So, I mean, before we have this vote that we're talking about, she'll be administered the oath.
After the House gavels in, but before the vote?
Right, yeah, sure, as soon as we get started, yeah.
And then she has said that she is going to be the 218th vote to force the discharge petition to release the Epstein files, et cetera, et cetera.
She has the right. I mean, that's immaterial to us. It's now a moot point, by the way. The Oversight Committee has been delving in deeply to the Epstein investigation, and they've released 43,000 pages of the Epstein files, more to come. Subpoenas are being complied with. By the way, the latest batch was the Epstein estate files that is not even considered in the discharge petition, was never mentioned. But that was a treasure trove of information, and they released his personal logs, his flight logs, his financial records, and even his daily calendar. So there's plenty of oversight. All of that information is going to be released to the public. The only thing they're redacting, Jake, is the names of the innocent victims.
Sure.
And we insisted upon that, and everybody of common sense understands why that is.
Of course, the survivors. Speaker Rick Johnson, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I hope the government opens.
Yes, me too.
And joining us now, Democratic Senator of Arizona, Mark Kelly. Senator, let me just pick up where the leader in the House left off, which is saying the overwhelming number of Democrats in the Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, voted against this. But is it leadership after 40 days? You, and I'm going to use the word that's all over social media right now, you cave. What happened here, do you think?
Well, I think, Chris, what happened is we are dealing with a president that just fundamentally doesn't care about people. And it's very frustrating. And we're the richest country in the world. And the American people should not have to choose between being able to have health care and put groceries on the table. So this is an incredibly challenging situation. Many folks here worked for a long time in a bipartisan way to come up with a solution that could work for the American people. And it did not come through, and that's on this president.
Well, you say that this is a president who fundamentally doesn't care about people, but didn't you know that going in? Did you think that suddenly the Republicans were going to change their position? Because I think it's fair to say that was only going to happen if the president signed off on it. Did you think that he was fundamentally going to worry about whether or not federal workers were getting paid or whether people were getting their SNAP benefits?
Well, my hope was that my Republican colleagues would tell him how harmful this is going to be to their constituents. I was speaking to a woman in Yuma just last week. Her name's Jessica. She's a diabetic. She pays $560 a month in her healthcare premium. That's going up to $3,100 a month. It's going to be unaffordable for her. So then, she gets sick, if she gets worse, she could wind up bankrupt or lose her life because of decisions that this president has made in order to give a big tax cut to the richest Americans. I want to be very clear on this. The only reason why we are here today and why we had this fight is Donald Trump is pitting rich people and their tax cut against regular, hard-working folks, and he needed a little extra money to try to pay for it, so he kicks people off of Medicaid and he jacks up their prices on their premiums. That's why we wound up in this situation.
Your Democratic colleague, Jeanne Shaheen, spoke to MSNBC a little earlier. Here's her explanation for why she decided to vote yes.
After 40 days, we've got, as you pointed out, air traffic control that's a mess. We've got government workers who are not getting paid. We've got people who can't get food. We've got mothers and children who can't get their WIC benefits. And so we need to end that suffering and continue to fight about health care.
Fight about health care, but realistically, Senator, and you're a realist, do you believe a future fight for health care can be successful this term?
Well, Republicans are going to have an opportunity here in about a month to vote on doing something to fix these premiums. We're going to put it on the floor. And it's going to be up to them to supply some votes to give some relief to the American people on this.
But let me ask the question again. Do you believe that this term you can get this fixed?
We are going to continue to work on this until we exhaust all options. We're going to try to communicate to the president, to Republicans, to the American people how important it is that people can afford health care. Chris, we're talking about over 20 million people who could find themselves in a situation where they've got to choose between rent and health care or health care and food. I've talked to a lot of my constituents that now find themselves in an untenable position because of this president and Republicans in Congress.
You're in the majority, obviously, among Senate Democrats. Chris Murphy called the defection by 8 Democrats a mistake. Bernie Sanders called it a very bad night, and he had some other more colorful things to say, including some disturbing statistics. But I wonder if, as a result, you believe Chuck Schumer's leadership is in jeopardy, and should it be?
Well, as I've said, Chris, we are dealing with an irrational president. I know people are frustrated. You know, people could be frustrated with leadership in the Senate and the House. I'm frustrated with the White House and a president. I mean, he filed a lawsuit to keep kids from getting SNAP benefits, taking away food from kids for leverage. I mean, that's who the American people should be really upset with and frustrated with, is the guy in the White House.
There's a lot of frustration out there among rank-and-file Democrats about the strategic way this was handled. So let me ask you very directly, do you support Chuck Schumer to lead Senate Democrats going forward?
So, Chris, again, we found ourselves in a situation I don't think the Senate has found itself in before. I think under any president, Democrat or Republican, they're going to care about the Americans' people's health care and care if they're going to be able to put food on the table and try to bring down costs, not do the opposite for the American people. So when I hear folks say things like that, I understand their frustration. But I also hope they understand that we all need to be on the same team here. And what matters at this point is restoring these tax credits, if we can do it in December. And we're going to work really, really hard, and we're going to focus on getting the Republican votes necessary to do that. But beyond that, it's winning the election in 2026. This president controls the House and the Senate. He controls those votes. He's got, all the levers of power here with our government. So we have to win this election in 2026. And if we do, we can hold him accountable, and we can take some steps to try to improve the situation that millions of Americans now find themselves in, not being able to afford rent or mortgage payment or groceries or health care.
I will note, Senator, that given 2 opportunities, you did not voice your unequivocal support for Chuck Schumer, but his job, at least for the moment, is not over. If this compromise plan does lead to the government...
I will say, Chuck Schumer and the leadership of the Senate are dealing with an incredibly complex situation where, it's hard to find a way out. But I am going to continue to fight for my constituents and the American people to just make life affordable for them.
Well, that's exactly what they're calling on the Democrats to do. But this government reopening, if it happens, would only fund through January 30th. If you still don't get what you want by then, if you still don't have health care for Americans, are you prepared to do this all over again, Senator?
I'll tell you what we're prepared to do right now is we're going to continue to be laser focused on this, to do whatever we can to try to restore these credits or some of them. We're going to work with our Republican colleagues. There's some things they need to provide their votes. And we're going to have to work in a bipartisan way. But comes December, sometime in December, we're going to have a vote on extending these tax credits. And it is going to be on Republicans to provide those votes. And the American people are going to see where they stand.
I'm going to let you go. I know you've got a lot going on, but can I just ask you if you've been hearing from constituents and what you've been hearing so far this morning since that vote last night?
Yeah, I have, and I hear a lot of frustration for different reasons. But I also hear from constituents who also now still find themselves in the same situation of not being able to afford health care, or people who have lost their SNAP benefits. So we're going to work to address both those issues into December and beyond. And to the end of the Trump presidency, we're going to work to try to reduce the costs for the American people. It is, Chris, it is a really challenging situation. If we have a minute, I could tell you a story about, I was just down in southern Maryland where I lived when my daughter was born, and she was 1 year old, and by the time she was 2, we had moved. And I showed her the house that we lived in, and she could not believe that at 29 years old, I was able to buy this house in a decent neighborhood, four bedrooms with a nice yard. She said, Dad, for people my age, and she's 30 years old, she says that is unavailable to them. And Chris, we have to fix that.
Well, you have your hands full, and I appreciate you taking so much time to talk to us, and it's good to see you again, Senator. Really, really appreciate, Senator Mark Kelly, you coming on the program. All right, joining us now to get the defense of this, Democratic Senator from Virginia, Tim Kaine, one of the people who says that they have come to a deal with Republicans to end the shutdown. Senator Kaine, thank you very much for joining us, first off. I'd love to get your response to your fellow Democrats, and that's also going to include your fellow Virginian, Senator Mark Warner, who said that he can't vote for a short-term fix that leaves working families staring down a healthcare crisis, and simply kicking the can down the road is not good enough. What is your response?
Katie, there was no path to any fix on healthcare with the government closed. So I supported the Democratic position in this from the very beginning until middle of last week. We had a big win in elections in Virginia, and Donald Trump woke up Wednesday morning and decided finally to engage and negotiate. And as I predicted, within a matter of a few days, if the president engages, you can find a path forward. Here's where we were last Wednesday. We had no path forward on health care because the Republicans said we will not talk about health care with the government shutdown. And we had SNAP beneficiaries and those relying on other important services who were losing benefits because of the shutdown. So no path to a health care fix, SNAP beneficiaries suffering. I got into the negotiation Wednesday. I realized we needed to help turn this around. And so now we have full funding for a year for the 45 million Americans, 1 in 8, our most vulnerable people, for SNAP, repairing some of the damage that the Republicans did last summer. We've got a path to a health care debate and vote within a month on the Democratic proposal to fix health care, where we will have a fight with Republicans and see who stands up for Americans. And then what I got in the deal was protection for federal workers. All furloughed workers and all those who've been riffed recently come back with back pay. And I got the White House to guarantee, as the last element of the deal to get me on board, that there would be no massive firings, rifts going forward. I have 320,000 federal employees in Virginia. There's 2 million statewide. That was enough to get me to yes. And now I'm going to fight like hell to make sure we succeed on the health care vote.
Why do you trust the White House?
I'm sorry?
Why do you trust the White House?
Oh, I don't trust the White House. I don't trust the White House. The commitments I've told you are now written into statute. I trust my Senate Republican colleagues that we will have a vote. It's not on a guaranteed outcome, but we were not getting a vote. We were not even getting a chance to have a debate about health care as long as government was shut down. So now we're going to pay federal workers. We're going to untangle the chaos in air traffic. We're going to make sure SNAP beneficiaries get what they desperately need every day. And then we'll have a fight, Katie, about health care on the main stage, in the spotlight, without the background noise of all the shutdown effects and consequences drowning out the high stakes of the health care fight. I think it's a fight we can win.
So you mentioned the elections on Tuesday, and in Virginia, which, as you well know, I don't need to tell you this, highly affected by the government shutdown, a lot of federal workers.
those Virginians went out and voted overwhelmingly for the Democrat. They voted for Abigail Spanberger for governor, and they voted for the Democrats down the ballot as well. You said the president saw this and took notice. I don't know. I guess the question for a lot of people is, why did you read that as a reason to end the shutdown and not a reason to continue and to force the Republicans on the issue of the ACA? Because you can have a separate vote on it. They've always said they could have a separate vote on it, but there's no leverage any longer. The president can veto it. The House cannot pass it. So you're going to lose those health care subsidies,
Katie, you asked me,
more than likely.
You asked me a funny question. Why did I read the results as suggesting we should find a path out of shutdown? It wasn't the results. It's that I talk to Virginians every day. My state has been uniquely hurt by this shutdown, uniquely hurt by the mischief in the reconciliation bill. My governor-elect, who won by 15 points, Abigail Spanberger, the first thing she said was, please find us a path out of the shutdown. She took to her own media last night giving me thanks for finding the path forward. I know what Virginians think. I know some of my colleagues are critical, but I feel very confident that this is a good deal for Virginians and a good deal for Americans. And you're right, we're going to have this vote, and Democrats will show who we are when it comes to protecting health care, and Republicans will show who they are.
But you could have done that 40 days ago.
Not agree, but hold on a second. But I wouldn't have gotten full funding for SNAP, and I wouldn't have gotten protection for federal workers because I needed the president to do that, and he only engaged a couple of days ago.
It doesn't seem like some of the party is just angry about this. It seems like this is ripping the party apart at a time where it felt like the party was coming back together post-elections. How do you convince your fellow Democrats to stay together on this? And how do you convince voters across the country to believe in the Democrats again?
Can I just say,
go ahead.
Can I just say, ripping the party apart? I think you're over-dramatizing this. I mean, I know the news business is to try to make everything like the biggest crisis since the Cuban Missile Crisis or something.
Don't say it's me.
There's differences of opinion.
I will quote your
There's
fellow
differences
Democrats.
of opinion.
Gavin Newsom calls it pathetic. Hakeem Jeffries, complete BS. AOC says this is not about a base of voters. This is about
Katie,
about people's lives. Chris
Katie,
Murphy says it makes Donald Trump stronger. This is a moment that demands fighters, not folders. I mean, this is me quoting Democrats. I'm not making things up.
Right.
You know, it's reading what people are saying and reporting it.
I know it. And you would have said this, you could have read the same quotes last month, a month ago. Will Rogers, 100 years ago. I don't believe in organized politics. That's why I'm a Democrat. We're a big tent. We have different points of view. I've been doing this for 31 years. This is by far, a minor league issue within the Democratic Party. We're going to unify around having the health care fight within a month, and people are going to see where Democrats are and see where Republicans are. And I'll be glad to come back and talk to you about it once we've done that.
And I'm always happy to have you, and I appreciate where you are. And I think that there's a discussion to be had about these specific people who are making this deal. You guys are moderates. Some of you are former governors. There's an independent. There are others who are from states that voted for Donald Trump and voted for Joe.
An end to the government shutdown appears to be in sight. 8 Democrats joined Republicans on Sunday night to advance a deal to reopen the government in a 60-40 vote.
Many setbacks for Donald Trump in court, from ICE agent conduct and enforcement to the ongoing food benefits clash in the shutdown. And we're joined by Emily Bazelon, the New York Times Magazine legal writer. Happy Friday, Emily. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good, Ari. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. It was a big week on the elections. That's obviously driven a lot of news. We like to have you, especially on Fridays. And then I heard you would only talk law, not the elections. So here we are. We built this whole segment for you. What do you see in the courts this week at a time where there do seem to be headwinds against the administration?
Yeah, we've seen at this point more than 100 judges rule against the Trump administration's policies of mandatory detention for people who ICE picks up, and just increasing, I think, dismay from judges about the tactics that ICE is using on the street. We've now seen this, in Portland, in Washington, in Chicago, where the administration comes in and they make assertions in court, And then witnesses come and talk about what's actually happening. And those two things are really different from each other. And the judges can see it. And this judge, who we saw this week ruling on Chicago, said that the government was lying. In particular, that the ICE official who's supposed to be in charge said that he got hit with a rock before he threw canisters of tear gas, and that just wasn't true from the video. So this idea of the judges really scrutinizing the facts on the ground and testing the administration's claims, it's so important. I mean, Ari, as you know, courts are for finding facts. That's what judges do. And you can really see them upholding that standard, and it does not go well so far for the Trump administration when they do that.
Right, and this DOJ is strained in more than one way. It's defending what sometimes look like long shot or losing cases, and that's always been the DOJ's job, as long as they don't violate their oaths when they have a government to defend in court, while they're on offense with very flimsy cases against Trump's opponents. And then you have the question of their overall credibility. There is a deference in many cases, especially national security, that judges give, and yet you just reminded everyone why they're blowing that up. And if that continues, you get to the Supreme Court, and even apart from who appointed whom, you may have more skepticism on the rationale. The ICE agents are obviously busy. Here's a headline that the detainee population is now at a record high, and it's up 70% since January. Since Mr. Trump took office, they note the previous high was in his first term in 2019, when they held 56,000 detainees. I mentioned that because this is something that came up when I interviewed Stephen Miller and others before they came back into office. They view this partly as a messaging effort, that you have to do more so that it's harder to be here or get in here or stay here. But at the end of the day, those numbers are also striking because you are not going to change the national labor force when the number is 50 or 70,000.
That's right. I mean, there's always this kind of push and pull with immigration, right? And as long as there are jobs here and people can work those jobs, whether they have documents or not, people are going to want to come. Now, it is true that there are far fewer people crossing the border. But what the Trump administration is trying to do is to get people to leave. And there's just a limited amount that even tens of thousands of people in detention is going to accomplish when people are still working. And of course, there is a kind of broader solution to all of this that Congress has not yet agreed on. But if you have more people who have permits to work here legally, then they can work those jobs legally. And that is one way of just sort of straightening out these dynamics. But instead, we have this current situation where we have no comprehensive immigration reform, and then we have these really quite brutal tactics on the ground that are being used against people.
Yeah, it's really striking. I want to show another headline. We've talked about the law firms and universities. Rachel, in our coverage this week, and others pointed out that if Trump's kind of popularity has been overstated and his political power has been overstated, and they're losing elections in a year from now, things could look very different, then striking expensive long-term deals under this framework may just be bad tactics, separate from whether you think it's right. Cornell University reached a $60 million deal with Trump to restore its funding. They were going to pay the government $30 million over 3 years and then invest in research that strengthens U.S. agriculture. Full disclosure, I happen to go to Cornell, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't criticize them when I was there. Some of the law school courses were too long, in my opinion, Emily. And I'm not sure that they timed this very well, although their argument is they've got a lot of work to do and they didn't want to have to start firing people who would have become collateral damage. So I want to fairly report that. But what do you think about the timing of this? Is this really, after Tuesday, a time to give in?
Well, it's going to land with a thud after Tuesday. I'm sure it's something they've been working on for a long time. You know,
Sure.
One thing that is striking about this agreement, as opposed to the agreement with Colombia and the beginning of these settlements, Colombia agreed to have an outside monitor really overseeing its compliance. And I think a lot of people at Colombia worried that the university was giving away some of its independence. You don't see Cornell doing that. So that's a distinction. You do, however, see Cornell agreeing to train its whole staff on the Trump administration's ideas about DEI. and also turning over a lot of data about admissions. And I think, some of that data the Justice Department is going to require of all the schools. But when you get into really detailed data about race and the places kids come from and grades and SAT scores, that is potentially going to it's going to be a disincentive for universities to continue to think about diversity in a holistic way if they're worried about the government looking over their shoulder through the whole process.
I appreciate the details, good nuance. And Emily, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
You too, Ari. Thanks a lot.
Department of Justice in Trump 2.0 is now run exactly how Trump.
So it took apparently a lot of courage to get this done on the Democrat side. 8 Senate Democrat caucus members voted with Republicans to break the filibuster, a massive leap toward reopening the government. But it's just the first step. And those Senate Dems have sparked a fire of rage, igniting a civil war among members of their own Democratic Party. So they are taking some heat now for the decision they made to put the country and suffering Americans ahead of their own politics. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here with my co-host, Kayleigh McEnany, also joining us today, Kennedy, host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, and David Asman, rounding out